Welcome back, fans of vintage Hot Wheels. Today we're looking at a whole bunch of old Hot Wheels. These are about 25 years old, released in 1997. This is part of my ongoing series of year-by-year videos. Of course, if you've been watching this series up to date, you'll know that we are into the series card Hot Wheels, which were released between 1995 and 1999. Collector numbers number 275 to 1121. Yes, that's a lot of Hot Wheels. And more importantly, a lot of variations, lots of information to look at here. I'm breaking it down to a smaller amount of vehicles in one video because the previous videos were running on past 45 minutes, and that's just too long to try to remember all of the cool details and get a good look at each of the cars. So today we've got 5 really cool 4-car segment series to look at for a total of approximately 20 cars here, I think. I've even got a treasure hunt, which I don't normally collect treasure hunts, but I did get one from this year out of the 12. So unfortunately, you won't see 11 of the treasure hunts in this video, but you're going to see a very complete collection of all these cars in this segment, which is number 408 to number 439. So lots of cool cars here. We've got the Splatter Paint series right here. We've got the Street Eater series, Fast Food, very cool. Silver Series 2. So there was a Silver Series 1, but this one has the iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobile in chrome, and of course the Fire Rescue Squad. Lots of very nostalgic vehicles here from my past as a child growing up. These were all the cars I ever wanted, and I had a few, but certainly not a complete collection like this. So now we're going to get a chance to look at all these in mint, open condition for the most part. I do have a few here still in the packaging that we're going to look at. But let's get the camera turned around and go in for a closer look at these awesome old Hot Wheels. All right, guys, let's get down to the pavement here. Check out these awesome Hot Wheels. We're going to just do a quick scan before we get into the detailed review of what makes certain models rare, variations to look out for, and just a nice, good look at these super awesome retro paint jobs that may bring you back a few years as it did for me. Putting all these cars side by side together from their respective 4-car series, the segments as they were sometimes called, is really a great way to appreciate just the amount of creativity that Hot Wheels put into their cars around this time. Not to say that they're not still doing that, but this was a very, very creative mix of cars, coincidentally all in just a short span of the collector number range, number 408 to 439. I mean, we've got some bright vehicles in here, I think you could probably agree. And I've also got some rare variations, some of the more rare variations, I should say, that I'll make note of as we get through this video, vehicle by vehicle. There's a reason why those ones are still in the package, and I'm going to get to the reasons for them all. Obviously, the treasure hunt's going to stay in the package because they're just so old and hard to find these days. I will start out by saying I picked up this Turbo Flame because from the last year-by-year video, had a lot of helpful comments indicating that the kind of played with version that I had as an example in the video was missing the orange windscreen on the front of the vehicle, so I did need to get myself a nicer condition one. And also this one is called the Turbo Flame. There were some that were called the Sizzler, and I understand there are obviously going to be package variation changes for these cars as well that I'm not making mention of in the video because this is more for the loose car collector, and also I just don't have all the information on the card back variations that existed at the time. So we're looking mainly at obvious variations. So we might as well just start out here with the Rescue Ranger number 408. And there is a windshield variation here. We've got a blue windscreen on this model and a dark smoked windscreen on these two models. And other than that, these two models here have very different degrees of paint splatter on them, I think you'll note. In fact, they all are very different. This one here has big blue spots all over the hood, and the spots just seem to be larger and more dispersed, whereas these ones are more inky and small. Now, these are not noted variations that I've seen coming across my research. This one has just a ton of paint on it, like 3 times as many paint spots as the other two. But I consider it to be something of a variation in itself. I just think they're really cool to collect by having all those different paint spots on them. It's almost like an infinite variation collection. I would love to get more of these and just continue to compare them side by side. But let's continue on with what we do have here. Now we're on to the side splitter funny car, formerly known as the Probe funny car. That would have been a Ford Probe funny car. I'm going to have to put this camera on a tripod because it's got a really cool play feature. All right, are you guys ready for it? I know I am. You may remember this model from your youth. It's a drag strip car. Check out the motor on it. Sometimes it stays up on its own. There we go. Check it out. Very cool car. Very heavy. These were known to be great downhill racers. You can just hear the weight of this thing. Check out those big 5-spoke wheels on the back, the smaller ones on the front. Take her in for a close look at those spots. Got yellow and red spots all over it. Hot Wheels logo on the back window. Parachute integrated into the casting of the body. And of course that big, huge spoiler. The exhaust, eight pipes coming out from this massive engine, which is cast right into the chassis of the vehicle. So very cool. Only one version of that was available, and it's usually worth about $10. I forgot to mention pricing on the Rescue Rangers. There's actually a variation I forgot to mention, and that is a tri-blade wheel version of this blue tint window version. I just noticed I have a little scratch on it. Is that a chip? It is a little chip. That's unfortunate. Oh well, it kind of blends in with all the little spots and paint spots. But anyways, yes, there's a tri-blade version, which is actually the harder one to find. Probably worth about $5 to $10. Really, these aren't worth much more than about $5. So that's that for those. And let's slide on over because we've got two more vehicles in the Paint Splatter series. The Splatter Paint series, I should say. I've got those words backwards. We've got the 55 Chevy. There were two versions of this one. We've got the 5-spoke. And there was a tri-blade version as well. And a, tri-blade. Tri-blade and 5-spoke. I was going to say 3-spoke, but no. It was a tri-blade and a 5-spoke. So we got that nice kind of pink magenta transparent window. There's no interior in this car, but you can almost see that there is no interior with this window. Normally this car would be made with an opaque window. In the past we always saw just solid black. It's kind of a lighter casting because it has a plastic base now. Yeah, it's got that weird red plastic base, but very minimal red splatters on this yellow painted car. Probably the least decorated of the cars in the Splatter Paint series, and they're worth about $3 to $5. Now, one of my favorites, of course, is the 80s Camaro Z28. It's a nice heavy casting, all metal, great on the racetrack as well, especially with boosters. Just this casting in general. But here we have it white with a white interior. It looks very snazzy, and a nice array of blue and black paint spots. There were no variations on this car according to the guidebooks and websites, but check this out. Very, very different spottage. This Camaro here appears to be spotting much heavier than this first version, but very cool cars, and I think they're probably at the extreme ends of how many paint splatter spots would be on this car. I am going to keep this one in its package. It's an original package. Would have cost 93 cents at a Canadian store out of business currently called Zellers. But Zellers is making a comeback. There's the back of that packaging. And they always had these cool little notes on the back. The Shelby Cobra 427 SC, made in 1983, has become one of those popular cars to collect as of 1995. Interesting. So each of the packages have that. That was one sad thing about opening so many cars for this collection, was that there was some little tidbits on the packaging I found to be quite cool, but I did end up keeping all of the packaging. Let's take a look at the Street Eaters series now. 4 vehicles, and we're going to start with a car that has quite a rich history in the Hot Wheels lineup. That is the very cool Speed Machine, and I've got 2 variations here. We've got a 7-spoke and a 5-spoke. It's an interesting aqua green car with roots back to 1970. That's when the casting was first created. There's been some modifications over the years. In fact, this one has a copyright of 1983. The main modification, however, is that the canopy no longer opens on this car. The former years, it actually opened up until this particular casting release, which did I mention features, it appears to be some sort of wild, angry-eyed boar with teeth all the way up the sides and perhaps some stubble over the back fenders. In 1970, this car was first released and known as the Mantis. Now, my version is so play-worn, it's missing the canopy I'm speaking of. But in the next one, I'll show you. This one actually has a copyright of 1969. Where's the focus? There we go. And in 1973, the cars were painted with enamel instead of that Spectre flame, and it was known as the Double Vision. And let's see that double canopy opening up. There you go. It's got like an interesting steering yoke in the interior. Very kind of a flight-looking cabin. Well, very, very iconic 60s, 70s look. And then in 1983 through till 1987, we saw this car as the Speed Seeker, still featuring the opening canopy. This one I think is actually from 1984. What does it say on the bottom? Speed Seeker. And there you have the 1983 copyright. Just an interesting little backstory on that car, I thought, given that I have some examples from all of those decades and generations. These cars aren't worth that much, maybe $3 to $5. So that brings us on to, were there other variations of that one? No, there's only 2 variations. Now, actually, the 7-spoke one in my notes here was worth about $10, whereas the 5-spoke's worth about $3. So it's actually quite a bit more rare to find the 7-spoke version of that car. Let's go on over to the Silhouette. Now, the Silhouette is a beautiful casting, of course. This is the Silhouette 2, not just the Silhouette. Now, on the surface of things, both these cars look exactly the same. However, there is a variation, and that is, this one has a little red Hot Wheels logo on the nose, front right fender ahead of the wheel, whereas this one does not. That is the only difference between these two castings, and that would make this car slightly harder to find than this one. Not to mention, you could probably just get some nail polish remover and a Q-tip and wipe this right off, making it even more common, but that's not what we would do here. So let's just take a look at this awesome casting. It's got a red plastic base. Looks like a centrally mounted engine system. Well, we can see that from the top because it's got a big chrome kind of scoop sticking up through the hood. And some sort of creature on the top with some slimy goo and mouth opening up on the side of each door area. Not that this car actually has doors, but a very cool casting. And then the next one that we're looking at is the Proper Chopper. Proper Chopper came with 3 variations. There was the clear window variation with Malaysia base, which is actually the one I have in the package over there. We're going to look at in a second. Then there was the blue tint window variation. Are we going to be able to, yeah, we're struggling with the focus slightly here. I may have to adjust the camera angle slightly. But this one had some functioning spinning rotors. And so they would fit in the packaging. You could actually stuff the tail boom into the body of the helicopter, and you could fold these blades so that one goes over top of the other for storage. Comes with a hook and some airfoils at the back. So this is the Malaysia base. This is actually the easiest one to find. Second easiest. The easiest one to find is a blue tint window version with China base. But here's the hardest one. It's a Malaysia base clear window. It's almost hard. It's impossible to tell almost unless you have them like side by side and really know what you're looking for on this model because it looks darn near the same. Bought at a store called Venture for 89 cents. This one's staying in the packaging because technically it's worth about $15 to $20, although I think I only paid $3 for it. This day and age, people aren't worried so much about the variations as they were back when these cars were still new, interestingly enough. That brings us to our final vehicle, which is the Roll Patrol. Apologies for that. Check it out. It's a heavy all-metal casting, and it certainly rolls well. It's also got a really funky, looks like a big angry ape of some sort. Kind of painted across the hood. And a bright metal orange base. There were multiple variations of this one, 5 in total actually. And unfortunately, I only have one of these variations to speak of right here. But I can certainly describe the others to you. This one features a very dark, bright plastic orange interior. There was also a normal orange interior, more similar to the base paint. And then there was a light orange plastic interior. So 3 different interiors. And then there was also yellow construction tires with some of those interiors. So I have the yellow tri-blade construction tire here. I don't have just the regular yellow construction tires. Now, those are all worth a variety of prices, really between $5 and $10, with the yellow construction tire versions being the harder ones to find in my experience. Let's move on to the third segment that we're looking at, and that is the fast food series of cars. I've only got 4, so no variations of any of these cars. Let's take a closer look at them and see what kind of foods they are depicting. Number 416 is the Pizza Vet. Actually, this casting would be known as the 70s Corvette Stingray, but here it is as a pizza. Now, these cars have plastic tops, or plastic bodies, I should say, and metal bases. So they would actually be very good on a racetrack because of the low center of gravity. And no interior on this Corvette. And there was 2 variations. There's the 3-spoke that I have here, and there was a 5-spoke, which is 3 times as hard to find, worth about $10. This one's worth about $3. Number 417 is the Pasta Pipes. So this one is meant to resemble pasta. Kind of looks like maybe some Kraft dinner in some tomato sauce or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe spaghetti. Either way, it's the Pasta Pipes, formerly known as the Power Pipes. So these were just kind of clever foodie sort of names for these Hot Wheels when they had this paint job, but their actual casting names were the second name that I'm saying. So this one's only worth about $3. There's no variations. You can see it has 3 spokes and a black metal base and a very interesting canopy. That brings us to the Sweet Stalker. So this is a T-Bird Stalker, is the actual casting. And it looks to be like some sort of Jolly Ranchers or something like that. Maybe some M&Ms. I'm not really sure. Smarties. Not M&Ms. But again, black metal base, white plastic body, and that kind of tampo print on it. This one actually is the most hard to find of the 4 and was apparently worth about $20. I don't know if it's still worth that. I haven't bothered to look in a while, but I don't think I spent more than $20 for all 4 when I got them from the same seller on eBay probably a few years ago. That brings us to Crunch Chief. Now, Crunch Chief is actually the Chevy Stalker. There was a 3-spoke version, which I have here, and a 7-spoke version, again, worth about 3 times as much, so about $10. That's a harder one to find. Black metal base. And what kind of candy do we have on here? Some sort of, oh, those weird little fruit crunchy things. I forget what they're called. They were like sweet little crunchy, I don't know, is that a cereal? Like a berry cereal? I don't know. You guys let me know if you know what the Crunch Chief sort of food variety is going to be on that. That brings us to the Silver Series 2. And what a nice chromy looking bunch of vehicles. So Silver Series 1 came out earlier. I can't remember off the top of my head what collector series number that was, but that was released in the series cards, probably down in the 300s instead of up into the 400s. We're starting with number 420. That is the dump truck, the Caterpillar dump truck. It has the functional tipping black plastic dump bin. Riding on these big construction tire tri-blade wheels with an unpainted metal Malaysia base. And very, very shiny, subject to thumbprints and fingerprints. So you're going to want to wipe your fingerprints off if you're handling them loose like this. These were all blister pulls of mine to put on my display wall. And boy, I'm ever happy to be able to roll them around like this with you guys and show you all these details. This one would be worth about $5. If it had the Hot Wheels logo on it, it would be worth about $20 in the package. I'm not really sure where the logo goes, but probably would be visible by now. That brings us to the 40s Woody. That's number 421. The logo on this car, and when I say logo, that's always means to do the Hot Wheel logo. That Hot Wheel logo is right there in gold on the back window. So there was a version of this car that had the logo on the back window, not this back side window. Here you can see the variation is 7-spoke and 5-spoke. Very nice chrome plastic and chrome metal combination there on this vehicle. These ones were worth anywhere between $3 for the 5-spoke and $6 for the 7-spoke. So hard to find a 7-spoke version, and about $5 apparently for the one with the logo right on the very back. Next up is the 57 Chevy, number 422. This one has no variations, worth about $5. Looks almost like a mirror, doesn't it? We've got an orange, kind of transparent, clear window that reveals that there is no interior in this car. Black logo on the back windshield. And pretty much that's about all there is to say there. Probably the most fun vehicle in the set is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. And it almost looks like mine could use a little shine up. Starting to get a little bit fingerprinty on the side there. So you got the yellow plastic in the center. This is a real vehicle. This was a real vehicle. Not in chrome, mind you. It was red and yellow. This is worth about $10 apparently. They weren't extremely hard to find, but definitely popular back in the day. No variations. It does feature black 5-spoke wheels and a chrome plastic base. That brings us to our final set of vehicles, and that is the Fire Squad segment. Let's get those out from behind all these cars. Fire Squad cars had a whole bunch of castings. Let's start with number 424. That's the ambulance. Here we have it in an obvious variation between paints. We've got the neon bright green and, of course, the bright red. I also have a neon green one still in the packaging here, and that is because of a multitude of variations, which I'm going to discuss here in a second. We've got the green 5-spoke, and also the back step on this ambulance. You can see there's a metal step just under that chrome kind of license plate area below the doors. Well, it's smooth on this model, whereas on this model, you can see it's kind of got like the same ribs as the roof. It's like textured. So that was a known variation for these. You got the 5-spoke smooth step, worth about $8. And then you've got the 7-spoke with the ribbed step, worth about $5. If you found a 7-spoke with a smooth step, it would be worth about $8 to $10. So there's some price differences there based on that. I don't really know how much people are actually paying attention to that these days, but certainly some collectors will. And then, of course, you've got the red version of the ambulance. This is the 7-spoke. There was also a 3-spoke, a 5-spoke, and a 7-spoke with an all yellow circle tampo here. So in the center of City of Hot Wheels, it was yellow as well. That is the hardest one to find and would be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $30. I'm not actively collecting all these variations because it would just be mind-numbing to try to find them on eBay. And I don't know where else you really could. Obviously, if I come across any in my local stores or flea markets, I certainly will be looking at them closely. But they are becoming harder to find in the wild, as I call it. And I just really like these ambulances because they have a lot of functionality and play value to them with those opening doors, that fully equipped back area for patients. And it's a very realistic looking ambulance, even though it is unbranded and just called, ambulance right there. Rear doors open, it says on the package. And there's some iconic old collector sets. I actually have all those sets somewhere to set up and enjoy someday. Send away $1.50 plus shipping and handling, and you can get a 1996 complete photo record of all the cars in 96. Wouldn't that have been cool? Okay, let's go on to the next one. That is the Rescue Ranger. No variations. This is collector number 425. Official car, fire department, City of Hot Wheels. I really like this casting. So in this small number of vehicles, we've had 4 Rescue Rangers. Isn't that cool? Got 4 Rescue Rangers. It was popular casting. It was very fun for kids to race these two because they're heavy and of course, they roll very well. Those big, huge 5-spokes. And then that brings us over to the Fire Eater. This is an iconic casting. It goes right back to 1976. And really virtually unchanged, even with the paint job being often quite similar as it is here to those early releases. Got the painted hoses on the side, the bright red and blue plastic interior is pretty much just an iconic color combination. Always with the chrome plastic base. And this vehicle, let's see, what are my notes on this one? Fire Eater. So this was number 427. And it was worth about $4 with the 5-spokes, If it had a gray pearl base, I've not seen one of those, it would be worth $100 or more. And if it had 7-spoke wheels with the gray pearl base, at least $80 again. And a 7-spoke, just as this one is worth about $20 to $30. And that's why I keep this one on the card. It's a very nice condition card. And here is that 7-spoke. So that's the third rarest of the 4 variations. And I'm obviously not going to probably have any luck finding pearl gray base versions of this, nor would I want to spend the hundreds of dollars required for the $1 Hot Wheel that I have very similar versions of. So the final one is number 427. I think I may have got this mixed up. Flame or Fire Eater. Which one is this here? It doesn't actually have the collector number on it, does it? Oh yeah, 427. So this is number 426. Got these out of order. And so we have the Fire Eater, or Flame Stopper, I should say. Getting all confused here as we approach the end of the video. And I've got 2 variations. We've got the yellow tri-blade construction tires, and then we've got the gear center construction tires. These ones were worth about $3. If you could get an all yellow construction tire that didn't have the tri-blade, just kind of a yellow construction tire, those would be worth about $50. So some rare examples in this Fire Squad segment of vehicles. And obviously none of which I have are overly rare, but all very cool, and they kind of round out the collection quite nicely. This one, of course, has the play feature with the big, huge water cannon or nozzle on the back that spins all the way around. You can park it on the front of the vehicle over the light bar, and very nice rolling vehicles as well. I have only one more vehicle to share with you guys, and that is my treasure hunt. We'll take a close look at it. There were 3 variations of this treasure hunt. It's the 40s Woody, so nice to see that one again here next to its chrome siblings. Treasure Hunt series was pretty easy to find back in 1996, and it told you, limited edition, only 25,000 produced. That's a lot of cars, really. I mean, by Auto World cars, they're limited to 3,000, and they're, you know, probably much less expensive than buying one of these. But this is old, and it is a Hot Wheels, so that is why. It's collector number 428. So this video is labeled that we're looking at card collector numbers 408 to 439. Well, that's because I'm missing 11 of the treasure hunt cars that came after this one. And so we're just going to skip all of those. I didn't bother making a bunch of notes on vehicles I don't have anything to show you of. But this one came with 3 variations. This one is the bright yellow with the dark yellow wheels. There was ones that had bright neon yellow wheels and bright neon yellow wheels with a silver white wall instead of a yellow white wall. So this is the least rare of those 3 that I just described. I'm not really sure what it's worth, but I would think about $40 to $50. I might be way off there. I actually haven't looked, but it is kind of neat. And 1996, I mean, there was some very high dollar cars in the 1996 treasure hunt. Or am I thinking 1995? Which was the one with the white Camaro? I think that was 1996. I may be wrong. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and more to come. Sorry they haven't ended up being weekly, but just got busy with so many other things and had to reformat the video series to something a little bit more manageable, a few less cars, and I could still really use a drink of water. So, without further ado, we'll see you in the next review. Happy hunting!